story begins with Captain Brodie Torrance, a flight commander, receiving a call from his daughter, Daniella, while en route to catch his flight to Tokyo. He is going to meet her so they can celebrate New Year's Day together. They don't get to spend a lot of time together. He meets Samuel Dale in the cockpit, who will be working as his assistant, and they exchange pleasantries. They get to know each other while preparing for the flight. An airline employee approaches them to confirm that all passengers are on board. Brodie complains to him about the unstable weather he is sensing might affect the flight, but the employee dismisses it because he wants to cut costs and leaves. Brodie wonders to Samuel if the employee is capable of controlling the weather. Shortly after, Bonnie, the chief air hostess, walks up to them to introduce herself and tells Brodie to accompany her to the jetway. In the jetway, Brodie is informed of the presence of a passenger, Louis Gaspre, who is a fugitive being extradited to Toronto by an RCMP officer who will be on the plane with them. Brodie cites concern, but he has no other option than to let him in. He informs the rest of the air hostesses, Maria and Isabella, of the development and advises them to be cautious. Brodie and Bonnie welcome the passenger into the plane, and the journey to Tokyo begins after being cleared by the air traffic controller on the radio. During the flight, the air hostesses cater to the passengers, while Brodie and Samuel get to know about their respective families in the cockpit. They enter into the storm, and Brodie signals to the rest of the passengers to make sure they remain in their seats and put on their seatbelts. Brodie proceeds to inform the air traffic controller of the latest development and asks if it is possible to fly higher through the radio, but is met with silence. He asks again, and they finally reply, giving him the go-ahead. Brodie then makes a snide remark to Samuel about how unserious the New Year's crew is. Soon after, the plane is disrupted by the weather. Brodie leaves the cockpit, putting Samuel in control, and goes to check on the passengers.
Just gone through some weather.
Matt Sinclair, one of the passengers, accuses him of being a joker instead of sticking to his profession as a pilot, but Brodie ignores the remark. Not quite long, the plane is disrupted again, causing Brodie to hit his head on the roof of the plane. He returns to the cockpit, instructing all the passengers, including the air hostesses, to remain in their seats through the speaker. At the cockpit, Samuel informs Brodie of the latest development, and Brodie tries to contact the air traffic commander, but there is no signal because the plane's system has failed. The plane has no power, and is now running on a battery that can only last for 10 minutes. Brodie and Samuel try to find the nearest place to land the plane within those 10 minutes to avoid crashing. Bonnie walks into the cockpit to see what is going on and returns to the passengers. She alerts them to stay in their seats with their seatbelts fully fastened and not to move because the plane has an electrical malfunction, so they will be forced to fly through the harsh weather. Brodie continues to try his best to land them safely, while Samuel is in charge of reminding him of the time they have left after every minute has passed. While this is going on, the RCMP officer tries to send a text on his phone, but the phone falls out of his hands to the floor. He removes his seatbelt and tries to get it. Seeing this, Isabella, one of the air hostesses, removes her own seatbelt and proceeds to go and meet him to tell him to return to his seat. The other air hostesses advised her against it, but she did not listen. The plane continues to descend downward, and due to the force, both Isabella and the RCMP officer hit their heads on the roof of the plane violently, fall, and die immediately to the shock of the rest of the passengers. Brodie and Samuel finally see land, and they proceed to land there. It was not an easy feat, but they did it. They were resting from the long ride when they saw a spark, and they immediately got up to meet the rest of the passengers and safely escorted them out of the plane. While this is going on, Bonnie notices Louis staring at the keys on the dead officer's body and takes them. Back at the airline's headquarters in New York, a committee has been formed to look into the plane's disappearance, and they are working on how to get it back. On the other hand, the passengers are resting on the island, while Bonnie, Brodie, and Samuel are discussing with one another how to get help. Bonnie gives Brodie the key he got from the officer's body, after explaining why she had to take it. Brodie also briefed them about what he knows about his case and told them to be careful. Brodie then proceeds to address the rest of the passengers to calm down, but the passengers are not having it.
Everyone, this is David Scarsdale.
David Scarsdale, who specializes in corporate strategy and crisis management, is invited by headquarters to help. He first lashes out at the airline employee, who turned himself to a meteorologist and allowed them to fly in that weather. He advises Terry, the head of the committee, to get private assets to help them find the plane and make a press release to assure the public that everything is under control. Maxwell Carver, another passenger, decides it is time to be an influencer and starts recording everything going on to show the world, while Brodie and Samuel try to calculate the probability of them being found early by the rescue team and find out it is very low. They also discover they are on a land island named Jolo, and Samuel explains it's an area run by criminals, and there are no government or police there, so they are fried. Maxwell tries to feature Lewis in his video, and Lewis throws his phone away, knocking him down in the process. Bonnie alerts Brodie about this and asks Maria to bring the medic bag to take care of the now injured influencer. Brodie changes his clothes to casual ones and tries to explain their situation to the passengers, telling them that it may take a while before the rescue team finds them. Matt was quick to show his discomfort, while the others tried to caution him. At least, they did not crash. He should be grateful for that. Brodie informs that he is going to search the island for a phone or radio he can use to contact the headquarters. Some of the passengers offer to follow him, but he declines and tells them Lewis has offered to accompany him. Lewis is shocked by this statement because he was just sitting and minding his business. Matt thinks it is risky, while Maxwell praises him. Brodie removes his handcuffs and tells him to follow him into the jungle. The reason why Brodie is doing this is that he believes Lewis is better off walking with him in the jungle in order to keep the rest of the passengers safe. In another part of the island, Datu Junmar, the head of the island, is notified that some people are on the island and tips off the informants. Daniella sees her father's flight on the news and begins to panic. She immediately starts texting her father to see if she will be able to get through to him. Brodie, on the other hand, is on his way to look for help in the jungle, with Lewis walking behind him. Lewis asks Brodie if he has any weapons with him, but Brodie does not give him a positive answer.
Good story.
Brodie turns to look at the back and realizes that Lewis has left him all alone. Samuel continues to work on the plane and sees a positive sign to his surprise, while Brodie continues to walk in the jungle. He walks into an abandoned house riddled with bullets and tries to see if he can find a phone he can use to call. He sees an old phone and repairs it so that he can use it to call for help. While this is going on, David makes a call to Shellback, a private asset, to gather his men and be on alert, because their help will be needed. These private assets also have $500,000 with them in case of emergency. Brodie has repaired the phone and tries to get in contact with the airline, but the receiver thinks it's a prank call. Frustrated, he tries to reach his daughter. On the call, he tells his daughter to take note of what he is about to tell her. He explains that they are on an island called Jolo, but it is cut short by an intruder. They get into a fight, and Brodie kills him in the process. He hears a gunshot and hides. Lewis walks in and tells him to come out. He is not going to kill him. Lewis has guns strapped to his body. He initially went to get some weapons they could use to defend themselves. Brodie is visibly shaken by what he just did, but Lewis tells him to bury it and deal with it later. Lewis asks if Brodie was able to get through with anybody, and Brodie answered that he was cut off. Lewis hands Brodie a gun, and they continue searching the building. They find a bloodstain on the wall, a passport on the floor, and a camera that shows them that the people of the island are kidnappers who kidnap people for ransom. They immediately return to where the rest of the passengers are in the vehicle intruder, brought earlier to prevent their current situation from getting worse. The passengers saw vehicles approaching them and thought it was helpful. They run to the vehicle, but Samuel tries to stop them because they are not sure of who they are. The rebels in the vehicle get down and begin to shoot into the air, while the passengers try to run to safety, but are surrounded.
You there?
Brodie and Lewis heard the gunshots and tried to sneak in on them. Datu asks them for the captain, and Samuel steps forward, stating he is in charge. Hajan, Datu's second in command, asks for the passengers list, and Bonnie shakily gives him. The second in command asks Samuel again, and he replied that the captain had gone to look for help. Rosalie, one of the passengers, tried to escape and was shot. Brodie tries to run out from where he is hiding to meet them, but Lewis stops him, stating it is dangerous. Joshua, her husband, tried to get close to her body and was killed too. Brodie watches on in horror. The rest of the passengers are taken away in a bus. Two of the rebels are left behind trying to get their passports. Brodie and Lewis run out of their hiding place to get them. They kill one in the process and ask the other where they were taking the passengers to. He tells them they are being taken to Dandulit village, inside a warehouse, before they are taken to a place on the boat. He does not know where they take them on the boat. He only follows Datu's commands. He does not ask questions. Thankfully, due to the call Brodie made to the airline and Daniella, the headquarters is working on locating them in Jolo. Brodie enters the plane and tries to start it, only to see it powering up, and he knows that was Samuel's work. He decides to leave a message behind by writing on his clothes and hangs it on the dashboard that the passengers have been held captive in Dandulit, just in case anyone finds the plane. Brodie leaves with Lewis to rescue the passengers.
Dave, found the plane.
The headquarters can locate the plane, and David sends the coordinates to the private assets to get them. Terry advised them to contact the Philippine government to send their local authorities to the site to get them since it is in their jurisdiction. But David made him understand that Jojo Island is not under any authority and is run by criminals. Terry ignores him and proceeds to make some calls. In Dandulit village, the rebels go into where they held the passenger captive and order some of them out. They forcefully take out 5 of them and record them by asking them their name and countries. They are Maxwell Carver from England, Bree Taylor from America, the stubborn Matt Sinclair from America, Katie Darr from Sweden, and Samuel Deal from Hong Kong. After the introduction, they order them back in. Shellback and his men get to the plane and report what they see to the headquarters, including the bodies of the 2 casualties. While this is ongoing, Terry receives a message that the Philippine government will not be helping them, and he is disappointed. Shellback also shows the headquarters the message Brodie left behind. Brodie and Lewis try to infiltrate the village by killing the rebels one at a time, strategically, in order to avoid being caught. They break into where the passengers are being held captive and release them. Brodie tells them they will be returning to the plane and assures them everything is under control, as help is coming from the headquarters soon, because they are skeptical about returning to the plane. They all escape into the bus. Lewis informs Brodie that there is no way they can leave without attracting the rebels, because the roads have been blocked by them. Brodie offers to distract them and gives the key to one of the passengers who can drive. Brodie meets with Datu Junmar and tries to negotiate with him, but is given a beating in return. Datu orders his second in command to kill him, but is suddenly shot by Shellback and his men. They have infiltrated the place. A gunfight soon erupts between the 2 groups. The private assets escape with Brodie and the rest of the passengers. Datu is blinded with rage. Hajan, his second in command, has been killed, and he is thirsty for blood. He orders his men to follow them. In the vehicle, Shellback introduces himself and his team to Brodie and explains that they are the rescue team. They get back to the plane, and Brodie explains to the passenger that the plane is not okay, but he will do everything in his power to get them to safety. because time is no longer on their side. Brodie proceeds to repair the plane as the passengers troop into the plane. Just in time, the rebels arrive, and a gunfight erupts between them and the private assets, with Lewis joining them. Brodie runs up to them to tell them he is about to start the engine, and they have 2 minutes to join the plane, as he will lower the staircase for them. Lewis secretly tells Brodie he will not be getting on the plane with them. Brodie nods in understanding, wishes him luck, and proceeds to start the plane. Lewis informs Shellback that he is out of ammo, and Shellback tells him to check their pallet. When Lewis gets there, the first backpack he opens is full of cash, to his amusement. He zips it back and looks for ammo to reload his gun, and returns to join them. Brodie starts the engine, and it is time for the rest of the crew to retreat to the plane. Shellback calls Lewis, but he takes the back of cash instead, and runs away. The rest escape into the plane, and they fly away, knocking down one of the rebels in the process. Brodie proceeds to fly them to safety. It was the craziest ride ever. He gets in touch with the headquarters, and they tell him to fly higher. He raises his voice at them instead, telling them to find the nearest place he can land, because this is the best he can do. They tell him Siasi Island, and prepare to land there. He lands them safely, and the first thing he does is breathe a sigh of relief. They celebrate this at the headquarters, congratulating each other. The rescue team proceeds there as Brodie and Samuel leave the cockpit to meet the passengers. The passengers clap for him, and Shellback praises him. The passengers leave the plane, and the rescue team assists them. If some of them never ride a plane again, it is very understandable. Brodie is exhausted and rests inside the plane, asking for a moment from Samuel and the rest of the air hostesses. They leave him alone with Bonnie, leaving last after hugging him tightly as a form of appreciation. He had a moment alone before coming out. He sits on the staircase and calls his daughter on the phone. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.